Hello everybody and welcome to something a little bit new. This is Mob Psycho 100 Psychic Battle, maybe the least creative name for a gacha game of all time. But it's not terrible, it's pretty fun. We're going to talk about it. I'm not going to take you through too much of it. I'll probably do a little bit of fighting. This is the home menu. There's my puppy. Hi puppy. Gives you energy. What a good lad. I'm going to go take care of my dog while we talk about it. So, the main thing that I want to talk about today is the character, like the units, and who you should be going for. I'm really distracted by this dog. Hello, here you go. Yeah. Oh God, ball hit him. Okay, that's fine. Come here. I'm gonna brush you. Yeah. Man, I'm not even gonna play. I'm just gonna do this. Rump tut? No, you don't like that. No, you don't like that either. Okay. Well, we're buddies again. We're back to 100%. Do I have any food for you right now? I do. You want some pet wine? Have some pet wine. What a good boy. Good lad. Okay. So, back to the game. I'm not going to take you through all these menus because, Jesus, look how many of them there are. There's just so many menus. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the characters, and we're going to talk about the characters a little bit. So, Shigeo here, up at the top. This boy. Everybody gets him. He's a default character that you start with, and I think you have to use him. Like, you can't remove him from your team. He's mandatory. Because there are certain mechanics in the game that only work for him. Like, only Mob can use emotion techniques. So basically, Mob has all these special skills that work when his emotion gauge is maxed out at 100%. And it lets you do different things, like 100% hostility. Main character enters hostile state and deals damage equal to his attack times 160% to all enemies. And then for each 1% HP he loses or has lost, deal an additional 0.5% damage and obtain a drain effect. Persistent is main character enters persistent state and grants all allies a 45% damage reduction for 2 actions. Sorrow, I think, is the heal. Yeah. Revives all fallen allies and recovers HP 10% of mob's max. All allies will then have a regen on them. All of these are really good, and it's part of what makes Mob so good. But another thing that makes Mob so good is skill. So he comes with 3 skills and some passive slots. I don't have them all yet. But he has Psychic Strike as his default. You can't take it off. But then for the other 2 skills, right now I have Spiritual Absorb and Imagery Storm. But if you hit replace here, you can see that actually Mob has, 16 skills? And each one works for a different role. So he has 4 DPS skills, 4 tank skills, 4, I think these are buffing skills, and then 4 support skills. So basically, Mob can play any role. So it makes rerolling this game pretty easy, because you can basically just get a decent core, and then you can use your Mob to fill in the blanks. So this guy is the next guy I want to talk about, so it's really convenient that he's next in the line there. Muto is super broken. The dude with the hot dog chin that he's got rocking right now. So in PvP at least, PvE you can pretty much, you're either going to blow through it or you're going to lose, and there's not, like, he's still good in it, but he's not as good as he is in PvP. So this personality manipulation, it does 150% times his attack to all enemies, and it causes the main target's cooldown. So it hits everyone, but you pick someone to target it at. I'll show you guys later. It resets the target's cooldown to maximum value, and then everyone else, their cooldown goes up by 1. So basically, in PvP, you can use personality manipulation, and your enemy team can't use their skills. All of the guys that are not the primary target have to wait 1 round of basic attacks before they can use their skills, and the primary target will basically never get to use their skills because they'll be dead by the time their cooldown finishes recovering. Like, even if it's just a 2-turn cooldown recovery, it's just not gonna come up in time. Telekinetic Wave is okay. It's got a 25% chance to take Dizzy, which it's basically like a little bit of a stun type deal. It's okay. It's not great. Soul Exploration, what that does is when attacking, find their weakness, which reduces the effect resistance. So you have a higher chance of applying your Dizzy, basically. And I think it makes it, yeah, so it applies 20% effect resistance reduced, so you have an easier time giving them debuffs, and then also they take 20% more damage. He's just a really good supporter and debuffer, and he helps the team out really well. He's super strong. Really good character. I'm going to go through all the SSRs, even the ones that I don't have, and talk about them, just so you guys can decide who you want to reroll with, and then I'll also show you some high-value SRs and Rs that you'll want to just keep an eye out for. So next up is Resue. Resue's really good. He's a AoE DPS. So all of his damage is based on hitting the entire enemy party. So his individual hits aren't as strong as like a single target DPS would be. But because he's hitting so many targets, he ends up doing way more damage per turn than them. Because a lot of battles in this game are like 5 enemies at one time. So even though he may only be doing like, 500 damage, when he's hitting 5 people, all of a sudden that becomes 2,500 damage. He hurts. So Genius's Fury is like his ultimate skill. It does 100% of his attack to all enemies. The fewer the targets, the more damage that it does. So the bigger the team, this does less damage. So it basically makes it so that you can still use this on a single target. So it goes up to an attack times 350% on a single target. And then after using the skill, you obtain the effect Charge Strengthening for 1 turn. And then when you get that status, the Soul Charge damage is doubled. So Soul Charge is his basic attack, and it does his attack times 50, or 50% of his attack, basically, to all enemies. And then with the Strengthening effect, it ends up doing his full attack power. This guy just hurts. He hurts a lot. His passive is, for each 5 points of additional speed, Ritsu gains 1% added onto his damage, and his attacks have a 25% drain effect. So you see his speed stat down there, where it says 108 plus 8. So every time you get up above 5 of that, Ritsu's damage goes up by 1%. So, like, obviously mine isn't built yet. I need to put some speed equipment on him and stuff to really capitalize on this. But Ritsu is heavy damage. Even single target, like, he doesn't do as much damage as a single target DPS does on a single enemy, but he still hurts. It's hard to basically find no value in this character. He's really good. All the SSRs are really good, by the way. So Dimple Ritsu doesn't play like regular Ritsu at all. So Genius's Fury, it hits the target with a penetrating attack that deals damage equal to the defense times 100%. So one thing in this game is that classes attack based on their primary stat. So like tanks, their attacks do damage based on their defense stat, not their attack stat. DPS use their attack stat. I think supporters use their health usually. So that way you can kind of build a character towards something and they don't become irrelevant in other ways. So like you don't have to feel dumb for stacking pure defense on someone like Dimple Ritsu or like regular Dimple or whatever, because all their attacks are going to use that defense stat anyway. So the value is always there. Genius's Fury hits the enemy with a penetrating attack that deals damage equal to the defense times 100% and has a 50% chance to apply Taunt. Taunt does exactly what you think it does. It forces the enemy the taunted enemy to attack the person that applied the taunt, and it only lets them use their basic attack. So if you land a taunt on someone who has an ultimate ready to go and you know they have it, it doesn't matter. They have to use their basic. If the target's defense is lower than Dimple Ritsu's, the taunt chance goes up to 80%. So if you can increase its level 2 all the way up to level 4, it becomes a 100% taunt. Really good. Spirit Punch is his basic. It's attack times 45% plus defense times 20%. It's crazy, like, formula for this. Damage to the target and has a 35% chance to taunt the target. It goes up to 55% at max. Basically, his whole thing is he wants to taunt people because he wants to be the one taking the damage. Because his passive, Challenger, is when he's attacked, he has a 40% chance to immediately counterattack the enemy with a Soul Charge. Soul Charge being regular Ritsu's normal attack, so it actually will sometimes hit multiple enemies. Successful counterattacks gain 1 stack of Challenger. When Challenger reaches 4 stacks, you will enter the states called Wild Ambition for 2 turns. And then Soul Charge will then counterattack the entire enemy party instead of just the person that hits you. And it also has a 20% chance to apply Taunt. You can't dispel it. You can't build Challenger. So for the 2 turns that you have it, like, you can't build up your Challenger marks while it's active and then go right back into it. But the sheer, like, ease that he taunts enemies with, because taunting in this game is really good because it forces you to use your basic. So even when you taunt someone, you're kind of negating their ultimate for at least 1 turn, and then you can force them to attack you, which then has a chance to proc Challenger, which means you're going to damage them back, and his counterattack does a lot more than his basic attack damage does. And then once you build enough, any enemy that attacks you, you're going to start blasting the entire enemy party with counter damage. Dimple Ritsu is... I'm too new to say who I think the best character in the game is or whatever, but Dimple Ritsu is in the conversation. He's really good. So this is Sakurai, the guy with the toy sword. He is a single target DPS. So Cursed Toy deals attack times 100% to the target, obtains a stack of Blade Aura. What Blade Aura does is it increases the damage of Cursed Toy, and then you expend a stacks on a critical hit of Confluence, and it does extra damage. So Confluence is his third skill. And then when you level it up here, you can get up to 2 stacks of Blade Aura, up to 3 total actually, because you'll get the default stack of Blade Aura, and then if you crit at level 7, you'll gain 2 more stacks, so you'll get 3 stacks. Blade's Will is his passive. So each stack of Blade Aura increases Cursed Toy damage by 5%, and then each stack of Blade Aura increases Confluence critical hit damage by 5%. Blade Aura caps at 9. So that's 45% increase at max. And then Confluence deals 400% attack damage to the target, and if it critical hits, all the stacks of Blade Aura are expended, and it increases the damage. So basically what you do is you use Cursed Toy to build up Blade Aura stacks, and then you nuke with Confluence to do just a ton of damage. He's kind of one-dimensional, but he's strong. He does good damage. There's just not a whole lot to his kit. It's pretty much just you whack him with your sword until you're ready to use your big sword. So he's not super exciting to play, but he's good. So, SSRs. We gotta start getting into the ones that I don't have now. So, Suzuki Sho is also a single target DPS. I guess he's technically a tank, but all of his attacks are damage, basically. So he does attack 45% plus defense 20% damage to the single target, so he works kind of like Dimple Ritsu in that regard. He obtains an energy stack per action, and each energy stack increases his defense by 20% up to 5 stacks. So he's taking less damage, and he's dealing more damage back because he uses defense in his attack calculation. Then his ultimate is Charge Blast Shot, does defense times 100% to the target that ignores defense. When at 5 stacks of energy, it turns into Falling Moon Slash, which does 10% additional HP damage to the target. That's really good because it's 10% of their max health. That's a fixed amount. So, like, it's going to do, against the boss that has a lot of health, it's going to do a lot of damage back. The additional damage cannot exceed 50% of Suzuki's defense. So, like, you can't do, like, 1,000,000 damage on a 5 million health enemy or whatever. But it's still really good. I like Suzuki a lot. I think he's really strong. I think he's one of the better characters to reroll for, especially if you're not going to go for Dimple Ritsu, because Dimple Ritsu is not easy to get. But if you're going to go for Dimple Ritsu, I think you can pass on Suzuki. It's either one is really good. Reagan, I don't know how to get yet because he's not in any of the banners. I don't know if he's an event character that I just haven't gotten to yet, or if he's already in the data, but he's going to be in a banner later. I don't know. But he is a supporting character. His first skill is Salt Splash, which does his attack 100% damage to the target, 80% chance to remove 1 buff. So he has an 80% chance to cast Dispel, basically. Supernova is at the beginning of each round, the team receives a damage boost for 1 action. So basically, just by being on the team, he does a damage boost to everybody. And then the Sweet Talk Shield uses Irrefutable Logic to boost morale, gives the whole team an attack boost, which lacks 2 actions, and then deals attack times 130% to all enemies with a 75% chance to obtain a defense weakening effect for 2 actions. Reagan's incredible. So just by being on the team, your team does more damage. With Sweet Talk Shield, you're also getting an attack boost, and your enemies are all taking damage, and your enemies have a really high chance to get defense weakening, which means that you can use that damage boost that he gives everybody else to do even more damage, and then he has a chance to dispel even when he doesn't have his skills up. So you can start around with this initial burst of Sweet Talk Shield, hits all the enemies, lowers at least some of their defense, if not all of them. Everybody has the Supernova damage boost, and then you can just go off with characters like Mob and Ritsu, and just wipe the field. And then if the enemy survives and they try to buff up, Reagan can get rid of the buffs with Salt Splash. Crazy good character. Don't know how to get him. I assume he's going to end up in a banner because he's just like such a definitive support skill set, but I don't know. We'll see. This is Dimple. He is farmable in PvP, so you don't need to worry about rerolling for him. He's really good. I'm not going to talk about him, really, because there's no point to do that because you can't reroll for him. Teruki, also don't know how to get him, just like Reagan. I assume, again, he's really good, so I assume he's a banner character at some point in the future. You can't reroll for him, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about him. I probably shouldn't have spent too much time talking about Reagan, but he's really good when he comes out. Keep an eye out for him. This is Tsubomi, so she is in the banners. All these other characters are obtainable. It's just Reagan, Dimple, and Teruki SSR version that you can't get in the banners right now. So her initial ability is to heal the target for 300 plus her max HP times 6%, and removes a random debuff. So she does a really big heal, and she takes a debuff off of your team, whether it be like poison, bleed, or whatever. She grants the target a large a damage reduction effect for one action. So basically, it's not a shield as much as it is you take less damage, right? And then Limitless Love is crazy. It revives a fallen target and recovers them for 30% of Tsubomi's max health. So it's based on Tsubomi's health, not theirs. So if you revive someone that has less health than her, they're going to get back more than 30% of their own HP when she revives them. Really good skill. Meraki, he's a tank as well. Magical hit does 45% plus blah blah blah, crazy calculations. 100% additional damage for each stack of Ethereal Body. What Ethereal Body does is every time you take an action, you have a 50% chance to gain a stack of Ethereal Body. When entering battle, you get one stack up, and you can stack up to 4 times. Multiple Clone does defense times 100% damage to a single enemy target. Transforms Ethereal Body into Super Ethereal Body, and you can stack it up to 20 times. Each stack of Super Aether Body immediately restores 5% of your max HP. So he is not going to do a ton of damage like Suzuki or Dimple Ritsu can. He is more of a traditional tank. He is just there to take hits and recover hits, basically. So I want to talk about a couple SRs. I mean, I'm new as well. I'm just as new as you guys, so I don't have the answers for everybody. I can only talk about the characters that I personally have used and I think work well. So first I wanted to talk about Tomei real fast. She's not super, there's not a ton to talk about. She's got Senior's Fury, which is good, just because it has a chance to apply Defense Weaken, which is a 30% defense reduction, so your really heavy hitters can do a lot of damage. But Cosmic Wave is really good. So it's attack times 100 damage to all enemies, but if it kills an enemy, she will use it again. And if it kills an enemy the second time, she'll use it a third time, etc., etc., as long as either everyone dies or nobody dies. So you can time team skills around her. I played a guy in PvP who had a really good team setup, and what he did was he would AoE with Ritsu and wear people down, and then as soon as he got one of my more fragile characters down to almost dead, he would power her up and drop Cosmic Wave, and it would kill him. And then she would do it a second time, and it would almost kill the entire team, sort of in order of their defenses. It was crazy. She's not super overpowered or anything like that. She's not I don't even think she's necessarily top tier, but just the ability to play around her like that makes her really good and kind of tough to deal with if you don't I kill her first if I see her. Another SR is Teruki. He's good. He's free as well. You get him from a login gift on day 2 of your second login. His basic attack is just Stone Control, which gives Enfeeble, which is just Defense Weaken. The biggest problem with this game, it's a Chinese game, and whoever translated it, they just fucking say words sometimes. I don't know why on earth it says Enfeeble here and everyone else it says Defense Weaken, but his is called Enfeeble. They need to clean it up. But otherwise, what makes him good is he gets this ultimate, which is actually a transformation state. It's called Moonblade. It turns it into a sword. It gets a 5% damage boost for 3 actions, and his attack turns into, instead of Stone Control, he has Moon Slash. So he also has immunity to debuffs, which is awesome. Moon Slash is a single target attack for 120% damage to the target, and it ignores their defense. So this attack always does a lot of damage. This is a really strong attack. The fact that it's limited to 3 turns is why I don't necessarily think Teruki is incredible, but he's a really good single target DPS. Let's say you reroll and you go for Muto because he's broken, and then you want Ritsu, or you get Tsubome, right? Teruki is a great fix for your single target DPS that allows you to customize mob a little bit more. And then you have Mukai. She's really good only because of Puppet Restore. This is the big thing for her. So when battle starts, she brings a puppet. And then after an ally action, for every puppet she has, she'll restore 2% of her max health. And then when a round ends, now what that means, that's kind of confusing terminology, but I'll explain it in a minute. When a round ends, if dead units exist, Mukai will spend a puppet to revive that unit for 15% of her HP. So this is a passive action. So you do not have to use an ability to do this. So what it means when a round ends is when every character in the battle has taken 1 action. So when all of your team, which is 5 people, and all of your enemy's team, which is 5 people, have all taken a turn, that's the end of the round, and you move on to the next one. So if one of your characters is killed, then her Puppet Restorer goes off, and she brings them back to life. It's a really good ability, and it's a passive ability. Oh, it's really good. Then we have Takeshi. He's an R, but he's pretty good. So Recall is just a generic heal. It heals the target for blah, blah, blah math, and then it removes one random debuff from them, so it's like a worse version of Tsubome's. But then he applies this shield, and this is a full-on psychic barrier. It's not a damage reduction. It's literally a barrier of health that the enemy has to break before they can hurt you. And it's a passive effect, so he automatically applies this every action to the character who has the lowest health. So if let's say you heal the person who has the lowest health, and then after the heal they still have the lowest health, he'll apply the shield to them. But let's say all of your guys have kind of good health, so he heals the person who is technically the lowest, and that pushes their health over someone else's. He'll apply the shield to the other person instead. So basically, you're getting a 2-for-1 every time you heal somebody. And then Inspiring Heart is a really great combo ability. It heals the target for 150 plus max HP times 6%, blah, blah, blah. And it grants them an action immediately. So like one thing I'll do in PvP is I have kind of a balanced mob right now. I use a really strong single target attack that also buffs me. And then I use an AoE attack. So I'll use Soul Absorb with mob, which does a lot of single target damage on whoever their tankiest guy is. And it also gives mob a 20% attack increase. Then I'll use Inspiring Heart onto mob to let mob go again, and then immediately follow up with Imagery Storm and hit him with a buffed AoE. I think this guy's really good. Like his stats, obviously, as you can see, they suck, and he's pretty fragile. But just his healing ability is really good, and if you can get Dimple Ritsu going, and you start pulling a lot of taunts off of your guys so that you can get everyone focused on Dimple Ritsu, Hoshino can he can put a shield on Dimple Ritsu to keep him up, and he can just keep giving people free turns and laying shields everywhere. It's really hard for the enemy to deal with if he gets going and Dimple Ritsu gets going. He's a good character. Definitely one to keep an eye out for. All the Scar people are different levels of good. Like, Tenga is okay. He's not from Scar, but he's okay. He does some decent damage. Like, you can see he has an A, an attack, and defense, and speed. It's pretty good. Tsuchiya's pretty good. There's nobody else that's, like, super standout, in my opinion. I mean, this guy, Kaito here, is solid just because Intervene is a really easy 20% plus 100 attack buff. It's just a clean, fast, it's like a generic, easy attack buff. But there's actually not a ton of that unless you have like Reagan, who I don't think is obtainable yet. So he's good just as a generic buffer. But now, I guess, if you want me to tell you who I think you should reroll for, I think the answer is obviously Muto. Muto is super broken in PvP. There's no reason not to have him. You can easily, like, Tsubome is probably the second most broken character. She's really good. Just she has the revive. She has all the different heals and stuff like that. But if you don't have her, you can replace her. You can use Mukai as a reviver or something like that. But there's nobody that can replicate what little hot dog Chin here does. Nobody can replicate what he does. Then after him, if you want additional characters, I think you want either Ritsu or Sho. Both of those guys are really good. So if you get your hands on either Sho or Ritsu along with him, you're pretty much set. Or Tsubomi. Like, I think it's good to get him and Tsubomi, and then you can just let your mob do the DPS stuff. Really, rerolling in this game, because mob is free for everybody and he's incredible, like you get him automatically, you can kind of reroll for whatever you want, and then just fill in the gaps with mob. So I think the best reroll is Muto, and that's really all you should care about. And then after that, you can get whatever DPS filler characters that you want. You can get Ritsu, you can get Tsubomi, you can get Mukai, you can get Sho, you can do whatever after that, right? But I think you can reroll just Muto and just start playing. Because Tomei, the character we talked about having the crazy AoE, and Kaito, the attack character, are guaranteed. So you get both of these two down here on the bottom, these guys. And then also you get Teruki as well for free for logging in. So you kind of have a pretty decent reroll just for starting out. Like, Tomei is a good AoE, Kaito's a buffer, Teruki does single target damage. You've got Mob who can do anything. So that makes Muto and Tsubomi probably the best characters to reroll for, because Mob can heal, but he's not super great at it, and he can't apply the delay effect that Muto has. So the big winner is Muto. You got to get this guy. if you get this guy, also, of course, as you can see, I have his speed is at S. Build him for speed. Always build him for speed, because you want to make sure he goes first. Because if he doesn't go first, the enemy Muto is going to go first, and you're just going to be out of luck. If the enemy Muto gets his ability off first, you probably lose. But other than that, that's my thoughts on all the SSR characters. Can't wait for Reagan to drop. I really want him. I don't know how he's going to drop, but he's so good. Teruki is also really good whenever he drops, but I think Reagan is going to be the character I want the most, personally. So good luck on your rerolls if you play. I was going to do a little bit of gameplay, but this is already going on 25 minutes, so actually we're over 25 minutes. I'll do one arena battle, just so you guys can see it. We'll fight Ultraman Yeet. I like your name. We're going to fight you. Okay, so it looks like my Muto got off first, which is good. So Puppet Girl is going up next, but I'm going to go ahead and reduce mobs cooldowns to minimum. Just so, yeah, slap that hot dog chin, bro. You got it. So I'm going to reduce mobs cooldowns to minimum because I don't want to deal with an enemy mob. And now what I want to do is I want to kill the Puppet Girl first. So if I don't kill the Puppet Girl first and I kill somebody else, see, Mob had to use his basic. Oh, he's so good. If I don't kill the Puppet Girl first, she's going to catch me with a loop of just reviving everybody on the team. So I want to make sure that I take her out before anything can happen, because otherwise I'm never going to be able to take anyone out. Okay, so now she can't revive anybody because she can't revive herself. Oh my god. Actually, you know what? You can do whatever you want to him. It doesn't matter. So now I'm going to give Mob a turn again. And so see, he gives the shielder to me. God, he's good. Everybody's good. Everybody's good. I'm going to get Mob another turn here so he can limit... Oh, so I actually killed that guy. God, he did a lot of damage. Alright, so we're up to Muto again. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to kill her. Nice. And then Ritsu's probably going to... Oh, wow. Okay, so the guy on the left is crazy tanky because he's only level 13. And he tanked that Ritsu attack. I'm actually going to go after Mob. Get the taunt on him. Good. Delays his attacks a little bit more. Just going to go ahead and kill him. There we go. Oh, he's mad. He's doing body improvement stuff. I guess I'll heal myself. So the only downside to this guy is that he only has heals. He can't do any damage. With my healer over here, Takeshi guy. There we go. He's down. So that's the gameplay. It's pretty standard turn-based. I know that's not for everybody. I like it. It kind of reminds me of if anybody played like Marvel, what's it called? Marvel Strike Force, like old games like that when I was like years ago. It kind of reminds me of something like that. Like it's just simple, fun, single target PvP type thing. It's all turn-based. It's all, you can build teams based on how their skills work together. It's not like, I don't hate games, obviously, like Bleach, because I play that stuff too. But I get kind of tired of games where you just kind of run around and just beat the shit out of everybody. Sometimes it's nice to just sit down and have like a tactical, plan your stuff out battle. Or you can own Muto and you can just steamroll everybody like I just did because they don't get any skills. Anyway, that's Mob Psycho 100's Psychic Battle. I hope you guys check it out. It's a fun game. If you do check it out, feel free to add me. You can hit me up on Twitter. Give me that friend code. We'll be buddies. I will help you guys out as much as I can with this game. I don't know how often I'm going to make content for it because I don't know how many people are going to care that it exists. But I like it. I think it's a lot of fun. It's getting a lot of hate from people, but I think it's really fun. So at least give it a shot. You don't have to stick with it if you hate it, obviously, but at least give it a shot. All right, guys. See you later. Good night. Like the video. Do whatever. That stuff. Okay, bye.